Hi guys, welcome. I just recently posted this video in real time where I just turned the camera on and started working on this page and just let it go for the full length, capturing what I was thinking at the time and each step by step. But I know not everybody has time to watch those sort of videos, so I'm going to do a fast time-lapsed one and just a little voiceover. So this is in my junk journal that I just recently created. So I turned to a page that has sheet music on it. And what inspired me for this page I'm doing is one of the melodies on this page is called, I think, Venetian Melody or something like that. And so I began just sketching a girl's face over it. I've sketched this little light background of water and a building in Venice, and so I'm kind of superimposing her onto the front of it. So right now I'm just penciling it all in, getting the basic facial features that I want, the size and scale and everything that I'm looking to do for her. And this was taken from a photo that I took when I was in Venice this past spring. And I loved this city. And it was just the architecture is amazing and beautiful. And I took one photo of this building that had these barber type poles on the dock in front, and it was just lovely. I don't know that it wasn't a black and white; it was a burgundy stripe on these poles, and so I captured that here that you'll see in a little bit. And it was just a magical experience. And I will say that if you do go to Venice, do whatever you got to do to take a gondola ride, because when you visit Venice, they dump you out at very touristy, busy plazas. And if you want to get away and just enjoy the beautiful architecture and some quiet, the gondola is just perfect. It's a beautiful way to see Venice. So I highly recommend it. So here I'm just using acrylic paints. Today I'm basically using pretty much all Jane Davenport paints. And I go over and over when I'm doing these types of things. So it's one thing I like about acrylic paints. You can put lots of layers on them and build up. And as you will see though, I have a little accident with the paint, and that will take me in a new direction. And oops, here it goes. If you can see that green blob down there on her neck. It took me a few seconds to even see it. Well, I start saying, you know what? I'm just going to get less perfect with this. I'm going to start blending that in and putting it into my picture and just letting the green work for me. And I didn't know where I was going to go with it. I didn't know if it was going to work. I backed some of it out with some watered down gesso to get rid of some of the green. I said, well, heck, I'll just add some of the blue too, because I had pulled out the blue and the green to do the water behind the girl. And so I started with some of that on the face. Then I went ahead and just decided to move to the water with a watered down paintbrush to move some of that blue and green around the page to mimic the water in the background. And then I'm going to go back in and work on her because she obviously needs some work. And when I decided just to smear things around and get loose with it, I smeared some of the work I had already done. It's okay. I like a more painterly type of figure, a little bit of rough. I don't like it perfectly pristine or like a colored in coloring book page. That wasn't what I was going for with this anyway. But she did need a little more work than what I had left her. So that's what I'm doing here is I'm going back in and adding some details with her lips again, since I smeared my first effort, adding a little bit more different shades and colors to her face. I backed out some of that green and the blue. And so now I'm going in with her eyes. I'm adding that blue and green into her eyes. That's the color I wanted for her. And she's going to be a silver-haired girl like me. So that's one of the things I discuss on the long version of the video is how sometimes even in our art we mimic what media shows us beauty is in this world today, and it's usually youth and beauty pageant looks, model thin bodies, and there's nothing wrong with those, but that is not the only equivalent of beauty in a woman. And so I let my hair grow natural. I have silver, really salt and pepper hair, and I get more compliments on it now than I ever did when I dyed it, and it is so carefree, and I know it's healthier, than it ever was dyeing it and putting all those chemicals on my scalp every 3 weeks. So I love it. So some of my figures now have my hair. So I did kind of a wash with some gesso, and then I went in with some of Jane Davenport's. She has a couple of paints that I have used to do hair to get that highlight look. There's a white pearl and then a silver, a metallic silver. And so now I've gone back in with just some black gesso and adding in some lines and highlights in the hair and some definition and some movement. Before I finish, though, I want to tone down some of that highlight because basically the whole hair is highlight right now, and it's just a little too much, but I'll come back to that. I work on different places in this painting at a time because I need to let something dry, and then I'll go up and work around the boat and back and forth. So I've gone in and I've put in my little gondolier. I'm working on the boat color right now, the gondola. I don't know if they call them boats or if they're just supposed to be gondolas. And so I'm letting some of the things that I've done on her face dry while I work on my little guy up here with his pole. I didn't want a very specific figure. It's more of a silhouette in the background. The only thing I did is I sort of kept the black and white striped look of his shirt. But everything else is just a blackened silhouette of the figure. So I'm pulling out the colors and adding the color for his pole so it will show up as it's going into the water there. So now I am going back to watered down pink that I make on my palette, and I just want to really light wash over my penciled in marks that I made. But I decided they need to stick out a little bit more, but I still want to capture that sketchy look I had going. So I just use an ink pen to go over my pencil lines to put in the barber looking poles that I've talked about and the window frames of that building. And now I'm going in with the burgundy color that these poles were. And they were actually on the original building. They were staggered across a number of them. I just did 2 here. So now I'll go back in adding a little bit more detail to her hair, to her eyes, using a fine liner brush. I'll put a link to some of this stuff in the bottom in case you want to check. A fine liner brush is wonderful to have on hand to do detail work, especially for eyes, eyelashes, and that sort of thing, to get the real thin lines that you want to get. And so that's what I use a lot when I'm doing finishing details on faces, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm still keeping things kind of loose. I'm not trying to get perfect skin tone or perfectly even. I still want that painterly effect. And I have these new stencils in a, I think it's called maybe Damask. It's from Shawn Petite. And this is the first time I've got to use them. And I love them because they're all different in different sizes, and they're just a little bit different in style. And that last part I was doing, I turned one on its side to put under the gondola to get a little bit of mimic of waves, and I thought that worked out pretty good. So I'm adding just a few highlights to her face, and I like where it's ending up, so I'm just going to date it, and that's going to do it for today. So thank you so much for watching. Give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, the bell if you want to get notified of different videos coming up that I post, and I thank you so much for joining me. Y'all have a great day now. Bye.